Addition. At the start of a new world creation, if you punch a log, you get 1 block of wood. If you punch another log, you get another block of wood. Congrats! You now have 2 pieces of wood and learned addition. Multiplication. Once you have those 2 pieces of wood, if you put the logs in your inventory, you can craft them into planks. 1 individual piece of wood equals 4 blocks of planks, so if you have 2 logs, then you will craft 8 planks. Congrats! You now have 8 planks and learned multiplication. Division. Once you have those 8 planks, you can craft sticks. Each stick requires 1 plank block, but you can craft them only in 2s. So in other words, you're giving up 2 planks for 2 sticks, which is a net 0 return. The relationship between the individual pieces, or unit rate, where we are trying to find how many planks are needed to craft 1 stick, was calculated using division, as 2 planks divided by 2 sticks means 1 plank is needed per stick. Congrats! You now have 2 sticks and have learned division. Ratio. Since we found that 1 plank is needed to craft 1 stick, we can express the relationship between the two using a fraction symbol, thus creating a 1-to-1 ratio between them. This means that if you try to hypothetically transcend Minecraft physics and crafted sticks to planks, you could craft 1 plank for every stick, although that's impossible. Here's a relationship between a wood block and a plank as mentioned before, where it has a 1-to-4 relationship because every wood block crafts 4 planks. We can reverse the relationship to make it plank to wood, and it would change the ratios to 4-to-1. It is also worth noting that ratios can be simplified, as even if you punched 2 logs and crafted 8 planks, the ratio between the two is still 1-to-4, as punching more logs doesn't increase the amount of planks you get per log. Congrats, you now know what a ratio is. But not every craft is so 1-for-1. If you want to make a pickaxe to get stone, you will need to sacrifice 2 sticks and 3 planks. You can't just put a stick in and get a pickaxe like we did for logs. In other words, you are losing 2 sticks from your original 2 and 3 planks from your original 6. So now you have 0 sticks and 3 planks. You have just lost a lot of your resources, but at least you have a pickaxe and know what subtraction is. Parentheses. This is a parenthesis. Alone, you can use it to replace multiplication signs. For example, if I explode 15 dirt blocks and I do it twice, then I have 30 dirt blocks in total, as represented by this expression. However, when you have an expression with a parenthesis, to simplify, you either have to combine like terms in an expression or use a distributive property. So if I somehow don't get enough fire resistance trades in my first bastion and say I only get 2 pots, I may have to go to a second bastion if I'm a brick, and maybe there I will get 4. Added up, I have 6, and I could represent that as this equation. It is also worth noting that parentheses have many other uses in math, unrelated to PEMDAS. Congrats! You now have 10 pots of fire resistance, can make your way to Fortress, and now you know what parentheses are. Exponents. Once you go to the fortress, you have to kill blazes to get blaze rods and make ender eyes. The chance of a blaze rod dropping once a blaze is killed is 50%. So getting K, or a random number of blaze rods in a row, can be represented by this expression. Each time you fail or succeed to get a blaze rod in a row, the odds of that occurrence is halved, or exponentially decays with the rates being predictable. This is achieved through using K to represent an exponent, and this is different from multiplication. As although each next blaze rod has the same rate of dropping, the odds in which you achieve a certain sequence of blaze rods is dependent on each previous one. Another example of this in Minecraft is, while end portal ender eye generation rates don't have an exact exponential growth variable, there is one that looks like an upwards graph that gets more and more likely the more eyes there are. Congrats! You now know what exponents are. PEMDAS. PEMDAS is a mnemonic that tells the order of operations in math, or the rules for which calculations to do first in an expression. Here's a chart of the letters and what they stand for. I'm sorry I could not think of a link to MCSR.